Good day, fashion friends. In today's tutorial, I am going to show you how I made these custom rock star pants for a local musician. Stay tuned. All right, so spandex pants, 35 waist. He needs 36, but of course these do have stretch. And he needs a 34 length. These are only a 29, so I'm going to have to lengthen these. According to the picture, we're going to start up here with this part of the leg, and this has a snake print patch with some grommet style accent, and I don't have the large grommet like what you see in the picture. But I have this costume piece that I picked up that does have the smaller grommet accents. So I will cut off a piece of that and attach that to the top. And then, now he wants these in spandex, but I want to add some denim for accents to give that worn, frayed look that the jeans are showing. So I have this very tiny pair of denim shorts that were gifted to me in a clothing haul that somebody was donating. So I will utilize a strip of this and add the fabric to the denim and then try to wash it, dry it, fray it in order to give that texture to the pants. And I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to do this just yet. So I have to figure that out. And then I also have some stuff that I want to sew down the side, and again, I'm not sure how I'm going to do that. I may have to take out the front and back seam in the middle of the pants to open up these panels and open up the panels on the inside in order to be able to sew that on the outside. So I'm still kind of running that through my head to try to figure out how I'm going to do that. So here we go. Okay, I have started with cutting out the inside seam, and we'll see how that works. I don't want to open up the rise seam if I don't have to. So looking at the picture, it looks about the snake print material on the right leg is about 8.5 to 9 inches, give or take a few. So this is the snake print material that is spandex to go with the spandex that it's going on, that I ordered online. So now I am going to cut, and it's only on the front. So I am going to cut a 9-inch long by, and this is going to taper. So I'm going to cut a little extra. So I'm going to go like 9 by 10. And then I will trim down what I don't need. So I'm going to cut a 9 by 10 piece of spandex to sew onto this thigh area. And if I need to cut it down, that's okay. Rather have too much than not enough. All right, so before I start sewing, I pinned the eyelet or the grommet piece on the top of the fabric with the snake print showing through. And then I will pull cording or strands of denim or something through that. So I will stitch just top bottom. And I have marked where about I want that thigh piece to start. And it's funny because it's throwing me off because these are 29 inches and it needs to be 36. So I feel like, oh, it's too big, but I have to take in consideration that I have to add like 5 to 6 more inches to the bottom of these pants. So I think I'm going to stick with this, pin this into place, and then cut and pin the rest of it to see how it's going to look before I start sewing, because I don't want to have to rip it out, especially dealing with spandex and ruining any of my material. Okay, so serendipity just happened. Not a plot twist this time. I measured my thighs, and my thighs are 20.5 inches, the same as the guy that I'm making these pants for. So if they fit me, then I know they will fit him. So that was actually very helpful. But, so I tried them on, and I feel that the snake print is a little too far down. So I'm going to take this off and repin it up higher, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So that kind of worked out. All right, this is a really challenging tutorial for me to try to film because I am not 100% sure of what I am doing. So I have this panel stitched on, and I had a little bit of a struggle with the crotch, but I can work with that a little later if I need to. I did zigzag stitch. I serged on the inside here, make it nice and strong, zigzag stitched over here. Now, I'm not sure if I need to zigzag stitch on the bottom here as well, and then this black piece that's under here, if I should cut that out or leave it, in which case, now I would need, I need to leave it because I need to find something to put here to make this a little wider to the knees before it starts to flare out. So I am not sure what to do. Okay, next thing that I did, I took the distressed parts of these denim, black denim shorts, and I'm going to make like a patch area and stitch this together, and then stitch this into here, like at the knees, maybe with some of the snake print behind it. And then this is going to bell out, so then there'll be more snake print. Or maybe I would just leave that open or put a black patch behind it so that they don't rip anymore. So I'm still trying to figure out that, but I'm going to patch this together so that way I can cut this whole front panel out. And then I can either reuse this to patch in. We're going to see. Okay, made my patch, zigzag, like double zigzag stitched it. I have stitched it on the inside right here, and it just fits perfectly. I frayed the top part of this, so it will fray some more, but I am going to stitch this right below with a zigzag to put that into place and make sure that it's going to be strong enough. And then I did cut out the inside piece, and then I will stitch this onto the side right here. So coming along, I think. Okay, I was so into focusing on this and trying to get this completed and figure out what I'm going to do. So after I stitched this on, he said he wanted to leave the knee open, so then I double zigzag stitched around this to prevent this from ripping any further. And then it was time to add the length. So I had to cut a kind of triangular pattern or shape on the snake material, 10.5 wide, 19 inches long to make the full length 34 inches, and 8.25 across the top to match up with this. So I cut 2 panels, stitched them together first, and then put it underneath of the material and zigzag stitched all the way around to attach the bottom of the leg. So that is leg 1. And then I took some leather scraps that I had and cut some strips and then put them into this grommet area. So now he's got some cool fringes kind of hanging down and gives it some texture. Now I'm going to start on the second leg. So I have this piece that I cut from a costume tunic item that I picked up for like $1 at a bin store. And that's where I got, like I said, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, okay, I could use like the faux leather. I could use the grommets. It's nice black material, like a microfiber. Could always use that. So I cut this piece and it goes this way, but it's going to fit awkwardly. So I'm going to turn it upside down and it's going to go on like this. So I will probably glue these down. But I went through my supplies and I have these stencils. So I am going to put this stencil in this corner and then just kind of position this stencil, even though some of it's not going to be seen. And I'm going to take my tack it over and over glue and some spray paint. So I'm going to tack these down, take this piece outside and do some spray paint to it and then do a clear coat over top of it so that it doesn't rub off. So that is my next step. Then I will be able to stitch this piece onto this leg part. Now, I've never used this before. I know there's a spray that you can get. I ended up getting the brush-on type. It was cheaper, and like I said, I've never used this, so I didn't know how well it was going to work. So it says to brush it on and allow it to dry. So I think I have it brushed on all the way around, and then this is supposed to be like water washable. Looks like I've got the stencil completely covered, and from what I understand, this is supposed to help the stencil stay in place. But while that's drying, because this has been folded, I'm going to hit this with an iron and try to get that little fold out. Okay, wow, this is like really nice. I've never used this before. This is pretty awesome. Okay, now I am going to do the next one. And then I also have this design. And I'm going to kind of put it up in the corner. So some of it's going to be on it. It's like going to be partial, but it's like the next coolest design that I have. Okay, I could not find my painter's tape, so I just used regular paper and cut little pieces to mask everything off. And now I'm going to take this outside with some white matte spray paint and spray paint that in. Let's see what happens. First coat of paint is drying, and now I have to figure out what I'm going to do for the rest of this. Not sure what I'm going to do or where I need to cut, because I need to put that piece on and then build from there. So I'm kind of at a standstill until that piece dries, but it shouldn't take too long. I think maybe what I'll do next is work on this leg. I have this corset leather stuff, or faux leather. So I have 2 yards. So this will go down the outside. So basically I'm just going to cut this in half, and then this will go down each side, and add a bunch of strings, either denim, leather, not sure yet. So Let me cut this in half and see how easy this is going to be to stitch onto up the side. I don't think it's going to be easy, but yeah. Because I don't want to have to rip up the side because I just stitched everything together. So, we'll see. All right, I finally got the trim sewed on down the side. I stitched down as far as I could. I still got some strings to clean up. And I got to about here in the middle of the jean area. Then I was able to put this hole onto my sewing arm and stitch down a little further to about there. And as much as I didn't want to, but because I hadn't serged it, it was okay. I ended up having to undo the inside seam just on the snake material so I could flatten it and stitch. And that made it so much easier. So now I'm going to stitch this back up. Okay, I did 2 coats of spray paint and then a coat of clear coat. And I've never done it this way before, so I have no idea what to expect. So here we go. Taking off the stencil, and we'll see what we have. Oh, well, that just pulled some paint off. That's great. Not sure. Wow. This re-tack stuff is really doing its job. Like, you're supposed to be able to, it's not like glue, it's supposed to be just like a sticky glue that you should be able to remove your stencil. And maybe I shouldn't have done spray paint. Maybe I should have done craft paint, because most of this is coming off, and I don't know if that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. Oh man. I mean, it's supposed to be kind of rock star looking, so oh, this is going to be bad. It's just took this whole piece right there. Oh, what am I doing wrong here? Yeah, it took some of the paint. Well, so much for that idea. That was a complete waste of time. So, craft fail. Looks terrible. Doesn't even look cool. So I'm going to see if I can take a little bit of nail polish remover and remove this. Okay, gotta find another idea. So the acetone is not removing the paint, which means this piece is pretty much ruined. Okay, plan B. I took this piece, laid it on the denim shorts that I was using for scraps. I cut off the pocket, and then I cleaned my stencil. I cut off the pocket. So I think what I'm going to do, I am going to shred the outsides. Then I am going to do the cross stencil in the pocket area. And this time I'm going to do it with acrylic paint, like you're supposed to. Try to get all this to fray. I may have to like fray it, slash it up a little bit, and then run it through the washer and dryer. I don't know. But I definitely want like some texture. Okay. Took the piece, shredded it all the way around, cut out the pocket, shredded all around the pocket, all by hand with my little box cutter knife. I then took the cross, put the retack it glue all the way around. I now have this tacky glued in place, And now I have my little sponge painter and my white paint, and I will now hand stencil the cross. I'm not doing the circle part. I'm just going to do the inner part. So here we go. Okay, cross has been finished. I painted it all white. I did silver and then like a pearl metallic white around the edge, gold in the center. Any mistakes that I made was very easily remedied with a little bit of black paint and a tiny, tiny, tiny little paintbrush, which I have. So this has been heat set with an iron and has already been stitched onto the pants. Now, while this part is open, because I do have to start widening the leg a little bit because this is where it starts to narrow and I need to even it up, I am going to take the other piece of this and start stitching it on, and I'm going to stitch this as I add pieces, so that way I won't be stuck like I was on the other side and then have to rip up half of it and fight with it on the machine just to get it to a point where, yeah, because I have no idea what I'm going to do over here. So I'm going to stitch this on as I go and as I add pieces, because I think that would be much easier while the leg is open. I have no idea what I'm going to add next. It looks like I'm going to have to maybe do a small piece of the snake, because it's kind of opposite. So we've got denim here, here, snake here, here, but then that is also going to go down into the leg. So I don't know if I should do this whole leg in snake. I do have some of this black material from the garment where I got these grommet pieces, so I could do maybe like a little bit of snake and then maybe a crooked piece of black and then do a crooked piece of snake just so it's a little bit different. So I think I'm going to kind of play around with that for a while and see what I can come up with. And just to add, I know it doesn't look exactly like the picture, but he said something like this. He definitely wanted the black snake, and he said he wanted it in spandex. That was the only two specifications that he gave me, and then basically said, have fun with it, I trust you. So that's why it's not exactly like the picture. It's a guideline. Okay, progress. I ended up doing a piece of snake here and attached, and then of course I stitched the leather-ish grommet piece on the side. I came down about this far. I then cut this at an angle, attached some of this black material. It's nice and flowy. And now I am in the home stretch. So I need to come up with something for the back side. And this piece I had cut to match this in length and size and everything. But in order to get this to fit, I had to move it up a little bit and trim some of it. But that's okay, because I wanted to do, I didn't want to do this whole leg in black. I wanted to add a little bit of snake on the bottom. So I believe what I'm going to do next, I'm going to cut a little angle off to match the angle up here, and then attach the rest of this as snake on the front to match the other leg. Not sure what I'm going to do to the back yet. So to get this bottom angle similar to the one above, I have this piece that I cut. This was a whole piece here, and I just cut a random angle. I used this piece as my pattern to match this angle on the black piece. So I am going to take this angle and flip it this way in order to cut a piece that will be similar to this angle so it looks kind of cohesive and not like random and, oh, that got messed up. And then I will cut, I think I might be able to use this snake piece to attach to the bottom and finish the front of the leg. Okay, this is my first leg. My black piece, so when I flip this to attach this piece, it's a little wider than it needs to be. So I took my first leg. So my snake piece is good. I have to trim a tiny little bit off the bottom, but I need to trim down the black because remember I moved it up in order to match. So I need to trim a little bit off of the sides to get the front of the leg to match up before I can sew this piece onto the black. So I'm going to trim this a little tiny bit. I'm going to allow about 1/4 inch to sew, and I can't sew this until I figure out, I mean, I can attach this to this, but I can't attach the sides because I don't have a back leg yet. So I'm going to trim and stitch to match the flare of the first leg, leaving some room for 1/4 inch seam allowance. Actually, correction, this snake piece is going to be too small because even though it's the same size as this, it does not allow me for seam allowance. So I'm going to take this piece and cut it a little bigger, and I may not have to trim this. So that's what I'm going to do next. So scratch what I just said. I'm going to cut a little bigger piece to try to match up with the legs allowing seam allowance. Okay, I know I skipped a few steps, but full disclosure, I was struggling with this second leg because I decided to do angle cuts, and I couldn't like block it off and do, you know, I needed this much at the top and then this much here because I did an angle. So I kind of like screwed myself. So I just had a really hard time and struggled with getting the rest of this leg situated and then getting it attached up on the top here, and then getting this attached. I had it backwards. I don't know what happened. I had a brain fart, and I had this side open, and I should have had this side open and this sewn in order to get the rest of this stitched on. So yeah, I literally struggled for a good like 5 or 6 hours getting this leg finished. But then I finally got it done. So now I just want to add the details. So I did a little piece of the grommet thing, stitched it on with the machine, and then just hand stitched the sides, put some of the snake material there. And then, so this is the bottom of the front. And then let me show you the back. Okay, so this is the back of the opposite leg. So, because I didn't want them to look the same. I wanted them different and kind of broken up just to give it more uniqueness, and then do, you know, the side slashes and whatever. But I definitely bit off more than I can chew by doing that to myself. So at this point, I am cutting little strips of the snake material, and I'm probably going to cut some of the black material. I don't know. And then I am going to thread them over here in various areas. My initial plan was to go like almost all the way down, like in the picture, but at this point I am mentally exhausted on this project. So I'm going to add some details and call it done. But there you go. So I will do a final video here when I get done with the details. Okay, here's the final look. I do not have a white background big enough for these pants because they are a 34 length, but there is the overall view, and then I'm going to zoom in on the details. That is the denim piece with the cross, hand painted. And then this leg gave me issues because I was trying to be creative and do something different instead of the same thing on this leg. I love this fringe. There is the other leg. This, I did the grommet piece there and then did some snake print fringe. And then up here on this hip is what was left from a scrap. And then I cut some more of the black. And then there is the back of the second leg, which again, this is the one that gave me a lot of issues.